I was a leadership disaster.
If we don't live the message, then we suck as the messenger.
If we can just uncover those things and bring healing to those things, people will be able to breathe.
Bro, I think that's the perfect metaphor.
Healing can happen for all of us.
Reading has that power.
If it's uncomfortable, then it probably needs to be addressed.
How are you cranking out content, running your business, and still stay engaged with your wife and kids?
How can we walk side by side with people in this deeply polarized world?
You could just say, hey, people need to hear this. What would that be? Gentlemen, welcome to the Formidable Family Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning. Today, my guest is Carlos Whitaker. Carlos is the author of 5 books. His most recent 2 books, Reconnected and How to Human, are worth diving into and learning about. We talk about both of them and what it means to be more human and go back to our humanness, what it means to slow down and reconnect, how to be more present, more engaged, and all the amazing benefits to our relationships, to our brains, to our bodies, to our lives, of slowing down, spending more time off screen, and still being able to be productive and effective and engaged and live amazing lives, being more reconnected and more human. He also has a documentary called Reconnected, and he and I have a great conversation about him going among the monks and living with the Amish and his ministry and his life, his journey, and going from a faith-based ministry into the industry outside of faith, but still, leading people back to Christ and to truth and the Spirit and the ways that we can be better husbands and fathers. So jump in, enjoy this episode. It's amazing. All right, brother. Super excited to have you on the show today and to talk about your message or messages, right? You got 2 books out. You got the documentary. You got your own podcast there. I mean, there's a lot of wealth we can tap into there. So super happy and excited and grateful to have you on the show today, brother.
Thanks, Greg. So glad to be here. Actually, I have 5 books, believe it or not, that span back to.
I wondered if there were some other ones.
Yeah, 2014. That the ones I talk about are kind of the last 2, but those first few are like my little babies that I'm like, I don't know if I want people to read them. Just know that I have them.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. This is awesome. Well, tell us part of that journey. That's a little teaser right there. Tell us your journey, man, of starting to share those messages.
Yeah, I had kind of begun my journey in ministry as a worship leader in Southern California. And I was on staff at a church for 10 years called Sandals Church, where I was the worship pastor there. And I thought that's what I was going to do forever. And it was great. Loved it. Had our babies there, adopted my son there. And yeah, if I felt good at it, like it was just a great community. My best friends were there. And while I was there, I started, now this is going to date me, but I started this thing called a blog. I don't know if people remember those things, before pre-social media. And I would write on that, and it got really popular. Like people were just like tuning in to read my 2 paragraphs a day. And I loved it. I loved sharing my message with kind of a bigger audience than maybe was in front of me when I stood on a stage. And so, I just kind of went at it. And that blog led me to have some other just possibilities within my career. And I got hired at North Point Community Church in Atlanta to become their service programming director after 10 years at Sandals Church. So I ended up working with Andy Stanley and, was down there and was learning just kind of a lot about leadership. And obviously, like he's just so good at all that stuff. And so, I was sitting with him every day in multiple meetings a day, running the, running the creative and for Buckhead Church. And Jeff Henderson was my boss at Buckhead Church. And he's now the director of marketing at Chick-fil-A. So I was just underneath such incredible leaders and learned so much in a few years while I was there.
Mentored and coached there at their feet. Awesome.
They were paying me. It was crazy, so every meeting I'd go in and every like large kind of situational problem that I got to watch Andy and the team unpack like in real time in front of me. I'm just like taking notes, I'm just like, I can't believe I get to watch this, I can't believe I get to be a part of this. I can't believe I get to have input into this. And so while I was there, I was, I kind of gone from just leading worship, singing, standing on a stage. I had one intern for 10 years at the church I was at in California. And that's really all that I was quote unquote leading. And then I get plopped into at North Point, and I had like 20 staff that were reporting. And so like I was a unmitigated leadership disaster. Like I was like, wait, I don't know how to do this. I was trying to be friends with everybody, and then nothing was working. And so like it was really good because I got to, sit with Andy and Jeff, and they got to really help form me into, I think, a big piece of the leader that I am today. And so while I was there, I did quickly realize that like I missed the standing on a stage. Like I think there was a skill set inside of me that wasn't being tapped into because I'd stopped, like leading worship often. I just was kind of managing and leading. And so Andy's like, well, why don't you lead, one Sunday a month or something like that? So I would lead one Sunday a month and then kind of lead the team the other 3 Sundays at Buckhead Church and at North Point, just depending on where they had me. And I'll never forget, Greg, when Andy, he called me one Sunday after I got done leading worship, and I was like, "Uh-oh!" Like you never want a phone call from Andy like right after
Right
his
after.
service.
Exactly.
And he said, "Hey, Carlos, I need to let you know something." He said, "Like you're a good worship leader. Like you're good. Like but the reason why you're a great worship leader when you're a great worship leader isn't because you can sing." And I was like, "Oh, kind of offended." I was like, "Okay, thanks, I think." He goes, "It's because of when you walk on stage, you have something that everybody in the room feels like they're your best friend. And then what you say between the songs is much more powerful than what you're singing during the songs." And
Beautiful,
so
the
he goes,
message.
take that for what it's worth, but I just want to let you know that." So, I took that, and then from there, my blog got really big at this point. So like I'm working at North Point, but I've got this huge blog. I've got a podcast now on worship leading, and I get signed to Integrity Music. So I get signed, I sign a record deal, and I leave North Point, and with the blessing of Andy, and I moved to Nashville, and I, make a record, start touring, doing all the things. Again, while I'm on this journey of being kind of an artist, I'm still writing every day. I still enjoy my little mini sermons between my songs more than I enjoy the songs. And it took a few years of me, I think battling maybe the calling in my life to where I finally got to the place where I was like, I think maybe I'm not called to be a worship leader. I think maybe I'm called to speak and to communicate.
Teach.
It didn't feel cool. It didn't feel,
Right.
I was like, I want to be a rock star. I want to stand on stages and have people, and man, I'll tell you, Greg, I mean, that's a very fast forwarded story, but it got me to a place where I stepped into my true calling, and I think my true gifting, which is teaching and communicating. And, and again, this, you're getting like the super high, version. I mean, there's been struggles in my life and in my marriage and in my, career and in parenting and all sorts of things, obviously, that we all have to go through. And we'll get into some of those things, but just to where I've landed now, what's cool is that, I kind of stepped away from the worship leading, the music part, started teaching, started writing. I took my love for writing my blog into a love for writing books. And now I find myself in 2025, I have kind of stepped into the non-faith space. I've kind of stepped into, I'm being booked way more by marketplace corporate clients to come in and speak than I'm probably doing 90% that and only 10% in the faith space. And I love it. Like I've actually never felt more alive in a calling. I just got done. I came back from DC. I did a 15-minute talk to like 75 corporate executives in a room. And I'll tell you, Greg, like, I'm not allowed to talk about Jesus when I'm up there, but these men and women will come to me afterwards in tears because I'm still teaching biblical principles, right? And they're coming to me in tears, going like, what is it? Like, there's something about you. There's something about you. Like, I want that in me. And I'm like, well, what they don't know is it's the power of the Holy Spirit. So once they come to me off stage, now I can tell them, bro. And now I'm like, now I'm like, well, can I pray for you? And what's going on? And so like, so suddenly I feel way more like a missionary than I've ever felt before. And I'm having the time of my freaking life. And so, And so, so I'm writing books now that are, they still have, my books still have Jesus in them, but I'm casting a lot wider net in my message online and in my books and to where, the spiritually curious now are the ones that are paying attention as opposed to just kind of like disciples of Christ. Right. So, I've got a lot of people from different religions and just people that are like, yeah, man, like new agey kind of people. And I'm like, sweet, come on in, man. Everybody come in. And
Everybody's
let's talk about how to be human. And then they're like, yeah, I want to learn how to be human. But then I'm like, well, the human we're going to look at is actually God incarnate in Jesus, and so like, it's a blast, man. So that's where I am now.
Oh, that is so awesome. What a cool story. Did you feel like you're kind of because you started your blog back in California. Did you feel like you just wanted to be a teacher? Was teaching kind of just in you? Like you had a message, a song to sing. Well, you were literally a singer, but
Yeah.
the theoretical song as well. Like, did you
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
message? Were you born to teach?
I don't know. I mean, I think so. Like, it's funny. I think sometimes we can hear the word teacher and we automatically put up a certain stereotype of person in our brain. And I think that I pushed back against that because I'm like, well, I don't know if I don't know if like I'm such a good teacher, like I can write out of my emotions and maybe somebody will learn something from that. And then, I'll have people be like, well, that's a teacher, bro. Like a teacher doesn't have to look a certain way. And so I think so, because
Exactly.
I think I started to see people pulling learnings from my writings that I didn't even intend to teach them. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I am a teacher. And so, now, I still, identity is a big thing, right? Like as men, like we can have this picture of what we want our identity to be. And then it's hard when somebody else that's super successful in front of us, I'll go to a speaking event and have some big motivational speaker guru go right before me. And then what happens to me the whole time I'm
Yeah.
listening to them is, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they probably paid this guy $100,000. He's like crushing it. And then in my head, I'm like fighting this, like, okay, I got to be better than him. I got to be whatever than him. And it's like, no, Carlos, just be you. Like, who are you? Who
You.
have I created you to be? People will learn if you're your true self. And so, yeah, man, I think I was
Yes.
born to teach, and I'm in there right now. It's good.
I love that. It's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. So what would you say is now that you really feel like you're leaning into the current version of your message, what is it that what makes your message and you unique? You say, what would what would you say is really drawing people up afterwards, after you speak and after you teach? What are they drawn to?
I honestly think that they're just drawn to the Holy Spirit. Like they're not drawn to me. I think they are, but what I'm trying to do is continue to take a roto-rooter and uproot any version of me that kind of tries to creep back in. And I'm trying my hardest to just be the hands and feet of Jesus. And
I love it. The
I think
messenger.
people are just drawn to that, right? Right, Greg? I mean, for you, right? Like you would say that that's what you're trying to do, is remove any part of you.
Yeah,
And then I think
absolutely.
more and more people are drawn to Christ. So
Yes, and to be his messenger, to be the light, to be a light in the world and give glory to God. And yeah, people love truth.
yeah,
They love truth and they love to feel how a good truth makes them feel. I love that.
yeah.
Love that. Okay, let's talk about what it means. What's your message about being human?
Well, I say be human, see humans, and free humans. To be human, you've got to lower the volume of life so that the volume of God goes up. High achieving, I think men are going too fast in 2025. Like we are going 1,000 miles an hour, and um, we've got to slow down. So like the first step in the whole how to human piece is be human. And what does that mean? I think it means in 2025 lowering the volume of life, like slowing down. One of my last book was called Reconnected, and it's all about our phones, and how I just feel like these screens have accelerated life to a speed that we weren't created to live, and we're going 1,000 miles an hour. And the being human piece is, I really dive into Jesus and how he did his ministry at 3 miles an hour. Jesus walked the earth at 3 miles an hour. Even the pace at which I'm speaking is probably driving some of your listeners crazy, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, Carlos, like speed up. We got things to do. I got things to learn. Like, why are you
Let's
talking so
go.
slow? Let's go. What's going on? Well, here's the thing. Like I learned this whole be human piece before we can be the hands and feet of Jesus to other people, before we can step out in this, current cultural climate that we're living in. And with all of the, points of discontent that people are feeling, we have to slow down. And if Jesus walked everywhere, so the average human being walks at 3 miles an hour. If Jesus walked everywhere and he did his ministry at 3 miles an hour, and we're doing our stuff at 100 miles an hour, then who is following who? Right? So that's I tell people that all the time. If Jesus went at 3 miles an hour, we're going 100 miles an hour. Who's following who? So we've got to get back to 3 miles an hour. And I'm telling you, when I've done that, happens at 3 miles an hour. I'm in a massive season of healing right now, and it's not happening at 100 miles an hour. Like, it's happening at 3 miles an hour. So that is, if there's one thing that anyone can take from this, it's like, I think that if you just slow your roll, slow your life down, you're going to get back to a state of being able to follow Jesus again, as opposed to being in front of him. And you're going to maybe find true healing at 3 miles an hour. So that's the be human piece. And, and for me, what that took is kind of a combination into my next book, Reconnected. I did an experiment where I didn't look at a single screen for 7 weeks. So I was like, what's it really look like to live at 3 miles an hour? So, I was fortunate enough in 2022 to do an experiment where I didn't look at an Apple phone, an iPhone, an Apple Watch, a laptop, a TV, a single screen, bro, for 7 weeks. And I lived with monks, and I lived with Amish farmers, and I lived with my family.
Amazing.
And I got my brain scanned before. I got my brain scanned after. I did cognitive testing before. I did cognitive testing after, just to see what life at 100 miles an hour does to my head, heart, and soul, and what life at 3 miles an hour does to my head, heart, and soul. And obviously, as anybody, you don't even have to read my book or watch my documentary. You just know. Everyone's probably even thinking, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing, right? Because it changed everything. And so I actually got to live it. So it's no longer like a theory that I'm like, yeah, guys, like, we should slow down. And no, like, I did it, and I saw what happened. I mean, my brain literally healed, my cerebellum healed in 7 weeks, about 5 years in those 7 weeks. And then my cognitive memory score, this is crazy. My cognitive memory score was in the 50th percentile for adult men in America before, when I was on my phone 7 hours a day. And then after 7 weeks of not looking at a screen, my cognitive memory score was in the 99th percentile of men in America. There was only 1% of men with better memory than me. So I'm telling you, man, it was
that's crazy. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to ask. Well, I have lots of questions because it was a fascinating thing, and I'll come back to those other questions about pulling that off. But because right now, even my brain, and I know a lot of the guys listening to this are like, wait a minute, what about productivity? Carlos, like, what about getting things done? What about doing more, achieving more? Like, I'm driven towards productivity. I feel like I do a decent job of being in the present, in the moment, and I can set things down. I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that, like, I can't sit down. I can be still, but you're talking about really slowing down. And even when you're talking slowly, I'm like, wait a minute, what about like getting after it?
Yeah, one of the biggest, I think, horrible tricks that society has played on men is that we are somehow producing something with our drive and our gusto that is going to outlive us because we're working so hard. And I'm just telling you that multitasking is like the biggest trick that I think society's ever played on us. Like, single tasking is what I learned from the Amish. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, like they are very productive. They are very, they are hardworking. I mean, Willis, the sheep farmer, bro, I've never been as exhausted as I've been in my entire life. Those 14 days that I was shearing sheep, up with the sun, feeling the grass, cutting the hay, going to the horse auction, right? Like, they work hard. I'm not saying we can't work hard, but what I'm saying is like their focus on their work was literally, they're thinking about their family the entire time, and they're working with their family, right? They are surrounded by their family.
Yes.
So Yes. So
Man, I love that.
if your drive and if your productivity is taking you away from family, it's a lie, bro. Like you're living the lie. You're chasing after
Yep.
emptiness. Um, and so like if that drive is going to pull you towards family, then that's it. Here's another thing. I mean, I think that the Amish can bring into this conversation. I always thought that the Amish were anti-technology, but what I quickly realized was that when I asked Willis, because he had a flip phone, it was crazy. I'm like, wait a second, Amish have flip phones? What's happening? This is ruining my. He's like, no, listen, Carlos, we're not anti-technology. We ask ourselves two questions with every piece of technology that comes into our community. And I think as men, we need to ask ourselves this. The two questions we ask. So if there's a new piece of technology, whether it be, e-bikes, that was like the latest big piece of technology that the Amish started using. Instead of horse and buggies now, they're riding e-bikes. They said we had 2 or 3 years of conversations before we allowed ourselves to have e-bikes, because the two questions we ask with every piece of technology is this piece of technology going to bring us closer together as a family, or is this piece of technology going to take us farther apart? And so when they ask that, they're like, that's why, Carlos, we don't have cars, because we know that if we have cars, if Miss Smith's barn burns down and I'm 400 miles away, I'm not going to be able to rebuild her barn in 24 hours like we can now, because we never get too far away from each other to where we can't be back together to support and to help each other in crisis. And so, again, those two questions, is this piece of technology going to pull us farther apart or bring us closer together? I think as men, we need to be asking ourselves the same questions.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow. That is so good. And man, I love what you're saying here. It has to be family focused. All the goals, all the dreams, all the ambitions, they have to be centered around and with family.
Yeah, absolutely.
I absolutely love that. And I feel that so deeply, so strongly. Like, it's about family. In fact, this morning we have a few families staying here with us at our resort, and we were talking about this morning. It's like, if we could heal the world, if we could just start healing families.
Yes.
And those family relationships would then heal communities and societies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then I'm telling you, just even having your kids see you chase after healing. We got parents that are on their phone 7 hours a day telling their kids to stay off their screens. And I just noticed that when we chase after something, our kids are going to chase after it too. And so one of the things I tell people is, like, when I came home and I didn't look at a screen with my family. Okay. So I spent 2 weeks with the monks, no screens, 2 weeks with the Amish, no screens, and then 3 weeks with my family, no screens. I did not implement a single rule about them not being on their screens. I said, hey, dad's not going to be on the screen. You guys can still watch Netflix or whatever it is you're going to do. My family's screen time went down 50%. Why? Simply because I wasn't on mine. So
Right.
it just, things are within family, things are caught rather than taught. And that's just what again, I'm trying to help people with.
Man, I love it. And it really goes back to, this is something I love to share and teach and live, try to strive to live by. It's like, if we don't live the message, then in a very frank way, we suck as the messenger.
Yeah.
And if we'll live that message, man, it radiates and it leads, and we can be the tide of change that comes in and lifts all the family boats.
Yeah.
For sure. Wow. How do you think that experience and this journey has changed the way you show up as a husband and as a father?
Well, it shows up as a husband. There's been a lot. My father's death, my wife's mother's death within 2 weeks of each other, the last few months, has really, tested the stability of what it feels like to walk through trauma, like together. And I feel like, because I have lessened the amount of, I don't even want to call it, I don't even want to talk about like screen time per se, because yes, I was on my phone 7 hours a day before. I mean, that's a lot, right? But I think, well, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm an author and this is what I do for a living, or those are my excuses. Well, now it's crazy. I'm on my phone 3 hours a day. That's my average now. Okay. 3 hours. So that's 4 hours every single day that I've gained back to pour back into my being a husband, being a father, all of these things. So like, that's massive. We're only awake, I don't know how many hours a day. And so to gain back 4 of those hours, one of the things that my oldest daughter said to me when I wasn't on my screen is, she said, I'll never forget. I mean, this was 2022 when I did this. And so I guess she was a senior in high school. She said, Dad, get this. This is crazy. When I wasn't on my screen for 3 weeks around her, at the end, she's crying. She's like, I don't want you to get your phone back. And I said, why? She goes, this is
Ooh.
the purest. She goes, this is the purest version of you I've ever had. And I was like, holy cow. Like she got a pure version of me, right? She got that. And so yeah, it's really crazy. My wife cried. Everyone cried when I had to go get it back, right? But what I've done is I've sustainably created things that I've placed in my life that allow me now listen, I'm just as successful, if not more, than I was in 2022. I'm getting just as much done, if not more, as I was in 2022. And I've decreased my screen time by about 60% a day. And so what that's done is it's made me more available. It's made me more accessible again to my family. And again, society's tricking us into thinking that we've got to like somehow be staring off into the abyss and into some alternate universe as opposed to being present. And so, yeah, I've applied a few kind of principles, given some handlebars in my life that's allowed me to be a lot more present.
That's actually where I wanted to go. I was literally thinking that. It's like, what are some strategies and principles and practices you're using now that are working to make that sustainable?
Yeah. So, simple things like one trick that I tell people all the time that'll literally give them an entire hour back. Okay. According to like average screen time in America. Okay. May not be the same where you're at, but I've been to the most remote parts of Africa and these homeboys are on their smartphones, like they're charging them car batteries. Like this isn't an American thing,
Exactly.
right?
It's everywhere, man.
It's everywhere. Like I'm like, and so one of the things that I learned is that the average American spends the last 30 minutes that they're awake and then the first 30 minutes after they wake up consuming more content than my great grandparents' generation consumed in a month. Okay, this is mind blowing. Okay, so just the last 30 minutes and then the first 30 minutes after you're awake. So what I tell people is one thing that'll automatically give you a whole hour back, 1 hour right away. Okay, that's 7 hours a week. That's I mean, think about it. It starts adding up is by buying an alarm clock. So all I tell people to do is go to Target or whatever, buy an alarm clock, put it next to your bed. Do not use your phone as an alarm clock. Do not plug it in another room. Okay. What that's going to do is it's going to give you a whole hour, 30 minutes before you go to bed that you're normally scrolling, 30 minutes after you wake up. So that's an hour, right? And then what I do is I've done some things like, I love the news. I love to stay informed. I love to be a part of knowing what's happening in the world and in America. But I saw that my screen time on news apps and on X was like, you get on to read one news story. Next thing you know, an hour later, it's where I'm sitting.
Exactly.
Well, so what I did? I subscribed to my local newspaper. And every morning I wake up, I walk to my front yard. There's a actual newspaper in my front yard wrapped in plastic that some dude at 6 a.m. threw in my front yard. What does that do? I make my cup of coffee. I read the newspaper. I feel like I'm like 1975, my dad.
Exactly. You're going back in time.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Greg. I still get to read all the news. Right. But guess what? The news isn't chasing me anymore. And now if something else happens on planet Earth, well, let's say I'll normally finish reading the paper by 8:30 a.m. By 8:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. the next morning, I guess I'll just find out tomorrow. Like we don't have to know. Like we've tricked ourselves into thinking that knowledge is somehow keeping us in control of our lives. Well, how's that going for us, right? Like the more knowledge we have, the smarter we get, the chat GPT, the Grok, all the things that are, making us quote unquote more knowledgeable, they're not making us any better. And so I'm just kind of like, I'm not the anti-screen guy. I'm just saying that life is more beautiful on the other side of the screen. And when you start falling back in love with what's on the other side of the screen, you just pick up your phone less. When you start doing things that make you feel alive, you just pick up your phone less. And so, my message isn't about rules and rigidity. It's about falling back in love with wondering, noticing, savoring, getting lost. I challenge every man that's listening to this right now. The next place you have to go that you don't know how to get there, look up the directions before you leave your house, write them down on a napkin and try to navigate and just go, and there's going to be something awakened inside of you that has been asleep for a long time. So there's all these things that I relearned during this experiment that I'm trying to teach people now.
I love that, bro. We drove, this is crazy. And even the people hearing this may not even know this whole story, but when we had 5 little kids. We moved to Alaska for a year, and my wife
Wow.
delivered our 5th child up there.
Wow.
And while we were up there, we heard about this family that had ridden their bicycles from the top of Alaska to the bottom of Argentina. And I was like,
Wow.
that's wild.
That's
Like, what if
wild.
we drive it? Like, we're not crazy enough to bicycle, but what if we drive it? And we bought this
Yeah.
truck, we load up our little family, and we drove super slowly, wandering, meandering for a long time. And we did Alaska to Panama. And we didn't use maps, brother.
Wow.
We would
Yes.
occasionally
Yes.
pull up something and look and be like, okay, let's just go and we'll ask locals. And we just
Yeah.
wandered.
Yes.
It was
Yes. Yes.
unreal. The connection with people and
Yes.
place
Yes. Yes.
was
Yes.
spectacular.
And you probably felt more alive doing that
Yeah.
than ever if
Oh.
Siri was going in 400 feet, turn left.
Yeah, turn this way. Yeah, you're just wandering around. We felt so connected to each other, to nature. Like, we were so keenly aware of what was happening, the sunrises and sunsets and all the wilderness and around us, and even the cities and the people and the places and the smells and the culture and traditions and religions. And it was beautiful and
Yeah,
wonderful. You're
yeah.
right. You felt so alive.
So alive. And we're just, again, I think knowledge is feeding a false sense of control. And, and we all want to feel in control. I'm not saying that wanting to be in control is a bad thing. I'm just saying that we're not in
It's
control.
working. I love your point. It's not working.
Yeah. No, it's like, again, that's my question is, how's this working for us, guys? Like, how, are we better? Like, is society better? Or how's it? No, it's not. So, I do think there's and I don't want to turn into conspiracy theorist, but like, I do feel like there's a pendulum that is swinging really fast that we don't even see, that's going to bust through back to the other side. And there's just a desire for, I think there's a desire because the world is moving so fast, for it to come crashing to a halt to where we're forced to live again and be human again in ways that maybe we were created to be human. Technology has forced us to really eliminate a lot of those things.
And I think all of us, if we stop and just kind of lift up our heads a little bit, if we look away from our screens, I think it's pretty easy for all of us to see that a lot of relationships are becoming dysfunctional.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
relationships with ourselves, but then you're
Yes.
seeing it in families, you're seeing it in communities, as people aren't able to cooperate and even disagree in amiable ways.
Well,
So you're right. It's becoming so dysfunctional
Well,
that there has to be something to shake that up.
and again, I think we're looking for like another app or something to help us, or another app to
Right.
shake those things up, or another piece of technology. And I'm sitting here going, listen, Greg, and your listeners, like I spent all this time with the Amish, right? I'm living with the Amish. Can I tell you something? I'm not Amish for a reason. Okay. I'm not down with the, all the Amish beliefs and and so like the Willis, my farmer friend who I lived with, and we vehemently disagreed on a whole lot, right? Like vehemently disagreed on a whole lot of politics, a whole lot of, societal issues, a whole lot.
And
Like,
did you dialogue through it? Did you talk
yes.
about it? Was he open?
So this is what I'm going to tell you is like, we disagreed so much, but guess what? Like we talked about these things face to face, breath to breath, over a 90-minute shared meal. And
Yeah.
you cannot hate a person breath to breath. It's just, I'm telling you, it's almost impossible. And so we would disagree about things, but if you have a meal for 90 minutes, you can't disagree you don't want to have a meal for 90 minutes and hate the person you're sitting across from. So the conversation goes up, and then it goes to somewhere else and goes somewhere else. And we are so close now. Okay. That when we're together, we call ourselves Willos, right? We're like, we just combine our names. Like, I'm like sheep farmer guy. We're like best friends. And the reason why we got there is because we were able to we talked about like hot topic issues every single day that the Amish are very opinionated on. I'm very opinionated on. And we didn't disagree to disagree. We disagreed, and our relationship got closer and got better. But with these, we just, we're just like using our thumbs on a 6-inch piece of LCD, and there's no relationship involved. And so,
Right.
Yeah, man.
Well,
It's going to be
and
face
then
to
people are
face.
getting on and leaving terrible, horrible, mean comments and being
Yeah.
so rude and harsh, where you're
Yeah.
right, we've lost this. Well, no, let's get face to face and let's be humans. Let's treat each other like humans. But it's
Yeah.
so easy to
Yeah.
objectify through a device.
Absolutely.
Did you feel like the Amish were well informed? And
My gosh, yes. Oh yeah. I mean, it was really cool. Like that was the one thing that I was like, how are you so I mean, no offense to Amish people, but I just didn't think that they were like educated
right.
like they were. And I mean, dude, they read. They
Yeah.
read and they are, I mean, we were talking like quantum physics. We were like they are up and they are thinking and they are
Yeah.
curious. And I think that was one of the other things is, they read the paper. They've got their own paper. One of the weird things is like, Willis was like, I'm a fan of the Cleveland Browns. And I'm like, well, first of all, why are you, why did you choose them? But second of all, how do you watch the games? He's like,
Yeah.
no. He's like, do you listen on the
He
radio? He's like,
reads
no.
about the game.
He reads about the games. I'm like, it is so crazy. So, oh gosh, hold on. I was going to tell you something else. Oh yeah, just with like how well informed they actually are. Just it was really fascinating to me that they probably, because they read as opposed to listen, probably are even more informed than we are, because we get these 30-second clips from a podcaster that we love about some hot topic issue, and then that's our new line, and we're not thinking about anything, right? Like they're really thinking. And so
Because
yeah, that was really cool.
reading leads to that. Reading is so
Yeah.
powerful that way. So I was
Yeah.
thinking about when you said that most people are on their phones the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes, that's probably the worst times to be on a screen of your waking hours. Like that's got to be the worst times. And
Absolutely.
years ago, I just decided I'm going to begin my day and end my day with books, good books.
Yes.
And I'm literally book ending my days.
That's good.
Start and finish the days with books. And I'm in great classics and
Yeah. Like
inspirational.
what are you reading right now?
So I'm at night. I read from Plutarch's Lives, like the 12
Okay.
illustrious lives from Plutarch. In the morning, I get up. I do Bible study and some commentary on scriptures or a spiritual text, and then I dive into personal development and like business books.
Okay. Wow.
Right?
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's like I'm feeding my mind. I'm reminding me of all the things I want to do and how I want to live life. But I'm starting my day and ending my day slow,
Yes.
deliberate,
Yes.
thoughtful. Reading has that power.
Yes. Yes. And again, I need people to know this, like slowness doesn't mean accomplishing less. Slowness doesn't mean being less driven. Like I actually think that the slower maybe you go, the more capable you are and the more, accomplished you can become. When you slow down, when you read, when you start doing these things that, again, I think we've been tricked out of believing that they're not good for us.
Man, this makes me think, just coming up with this phrase by hearing you teach this message. We've heard that sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And in some ways, slower is faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
It's deeper.
You
It's
just
more
said that.
impactful.
I heard a quote. I can't remember who said it, but they're like, what if the way to catch up with God is by slowing down? Yeah.
I love this, man. And I think, okay, I actually want to go back to healing, because you've mentioned it a couple times. And I think you're absolutely right. For healing to take place, there has to be this big screeching halt, either a halt or a slowdown. Like you got to slow down and do the inner work, and you got to make space in your life for what's inside to come up, to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And process it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about healing for a little bit, because in my experience, my own personal experience, I had to heal from a lot of just junk that happened. My parents divorced, stepdads came and went. I was out on my own, went through some, lived in some rough areas, experienced some rough things, right? It was just tough. And I needed to process all that. And I had all my own insecurities and my own fears and issues and whatever. I had to process all that. But I find that working with men across 5 continents so far for over 2 decades, almost every man has some internal wounds, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, some have wounds that need healing. Some have just disturbances, obstacles, whatever. And I find, at least in my experience, like if we don't remove those inner obstacles, then we stumble in life on the outward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So let's talk through healing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is where I am. I'm a big I'm probably a little bit more on the spectrum of like, I honestly believe that every behavior that a man or woman has in their life that is truly a detriment to their family or to themselves has its birthplace in a wound somewhere.
I agree.
In a wound somewhere. I mean, dude, this is where I'm at as a man. I spent 4 days in Ohio doing a therapy intensive to find some wounds in my life that have caused people pain in my adult life. And guess what? Those wounds that were uncovered were when I was 5 years old, right? Greg, like 5 years old. I had to go back to 5 years old to talk to little Carlos, who was wounded traumatically, and bring Jesus into that place of wounding and find healing in there. And guess what? These wounds are, and the healing that needs to happen a lot of times are in our childhood. And what happened is like, we've got these moments of impact of trauma that it's like a guitar delay pedal, right? Like you hit it, cha-ching, 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 and the rest of your life, that delay pedal is just going,
Keeps tapping.
it just keeps bouncing. And what we have to do is, I've tried my hardest to like stop whatever behavior it is, right? With my strength and my power and my grit and my self-help books and all these things. And guess what happens? If I go back to the wound and I find that wound and I find healing from that wound at the beginning, I get to tap off the delay pedal and boom, guess what? Look, all the delays are gone now, right? And so I am the biggest proponent of men going to therapy, inner healing prayer, finding healing. And, I'm not saying everyone has to go to like 6 hours a day of intensive therapy like I did a week ago, but I am saying that therapy will help, dig down to find the problem spot that I think a lot of men are avoiding.
Wow. Oh, like I was clueless, right? I was just rolling through life trying to figure things out. And this is a teenager. I was so hungry, so desperate for relationships, for happiness, for success. I had to get out of the crummy conditions I was living in, 16, 17, 18 years old. I didn't know what I was doing, but I fell in love with books. Like books became my lifeline. And I came across a term years later called bibliotherapy. It's literally therapy from books.
Yeah.
And so as a young man, I was spending a couple hours a day in the gym. And, martial arts, hitting a boxing bag and reading books.
Yep.
I was healing.
There you go.
And I was getting the therapy from the great books because I didn't know even therapy existed back then. I didn't even know it was a thing. But I went through the process and I did the inner work. And then I kept doing it, through my late teens, early 20s and 30s, like resolving anything that came up. And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
And everybody listening knows that, but we can't avoid it just because it's uncomfortable.
Right. Well, and
it's actually, thing that has to be addressed.
If it's uncomfortable, then it probably needs to be addressed, right? Like if it's uncomfortable, it's like, well, ding, 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 there it is. There's the thing that you probably need to, lean into. And so, yeah, man. And the truth is that healing can happen for all of us. Like every single person that's listening to this right now has something unhealed in their life. Yeah, I mean, you can start working on it today, and that healing is going to be able to bring about healing, not just in you, but in the rest of the people, your family, your marriage, your kids, your relationships with your friends, like all of those things. The better I get, the more healed I get, the more healed everything around me gets.
In your life.
Everything in my life gets,
Yes, exactly. And that wound, if you think about it, like it's this painful sensitivity and it gets easily triggered and it hurts and you kind of protect, you start acting a little awkward and you may not even be aware of it, right? So unconsciously, you're just protecting that spot. And you're like, don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. Don't come near me. And I'm feeling a little off. And so maybe I'm a little grumpy. I'm a little distant. And it has this ripple effect through your whole life. I love how you're saying that the guitar sound is this reverberating.
Yeah.
And we just got to go in, turn that off. And it's like, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Now the inner peace.
It's really there. And I don't want to get, again, too therapy-ish on everybody, but like all of the feelings of shame, all of these things that it's really based on our feelings that we're so hard on ourselves. They all have a root in a single wound. Like they all do. And if we can just uncover those things and bring healing to those things, I'm just telling you, people will be able to breathe. Here's how I explain it. Like, so last week, so again, I can use my little bit of last week when I went to this therapy intensive. When I left, I felt like I had an inhaler to an asthmatic, right? It's like I didn't even know I was having an asthma attack, that I was living my entire adult life as an asthma. And then all of a sudden, I was like, holy cow, is this what it actually feels like to breathe? Like, I didn't even know it. And so I think so many of us are actually suffocating and we don't know it until you find the wound.
Yeah.
You're just too used to it. You find the wound, you get your little inhaler of freedom and healing. You take a hit and you're like, oh, wait a second. If this is what it feels like to breathe, and I didn't even know I wasn't breathing before, I don't ever want to go back to that again. And so, yeah, man.
Bro, I think that's the perfect metaphor. We're rolling along. We don't even know.
You don't even know. Great example. We'll take it one step farther. Ready? When I moved to Nashville, when I was 40, I'd never had asthma my entire life, ever. And I started my wife was like, you're wheezing every night. You sound like Darth Vader when you're sleeping. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. Now, little did I know that Nashville is in Middle Tennessee, which is like allergy capital of America. And so I'm breathing in tree pollen, grass pollen, all these things. So I go to an allergist and he told me that I was only using 60% of my lung capacity. I blew into this tube and he goes, yeah, man, the reason why you're wheezing is your lungs are only functioning at 60%. That's what I told him. I go, I feel fine. And he goes, it's because you've gotten used to not being able to breathe.
There it is.
Boom.
Oh my
there it
goodness.
is. Yeah.
Yes, so true. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears. That was so good. I want to learn about your business strategies and writing strategies. Like, give us a day in the life of, or a week in the life of, how are you cranking out content, running your business, and still stay engaged with your wife and kids?
Yeah. Well, I did it all on my own forever. Like, I was a solopreneur guy forever. So 15 years, it's just me. I didn't have any help whatsoever. And it's because I was good. Anyone that I tried to come in and help me, I was like, nah, I can do it better than them. Like, why am I going to pay someone to edit my podcast? It doesn't sound near as good as when I do it, or edit my video. It doesn't sound near as good. Well, I actually finally gave in. And I'm actually able to now be on my phone 3 hours a day instead of 7 hours a day because I got help. And so I finally started, I brought in Whitney from Wisconsin is what we call her. She's my assistant and she is crushing it. She's and I hate even calling her an assistant. She's like my second brain. Right. And so she comes in, I've got a management team now that, are kind of managing a lot of the business aspects of kind of what I'm doing in my career and where I'm going. But individually now, I'm making content every day. I'm making videos every day. I'm, editing it on my phone every single day. I've got a podcast. I've got books. I'm speaking. And so I have to make sure that if I'm not careful, it can completely consume my entire life, right? There's endless ways to get our message out there now. And so I have just made a decision that, again, for me, it's ended up about 3 hours a day on my phone, but I write. This is what I do with my writing muscle. I write every day. So every single day I write 365 days a week, a year. I'm writing and I'm making sure that muscle is continually activated. So when it's time to write the next book or whatever, I'm already there and I don't have to get there again.
You're in good condition.
I'm good. And so and nobody's ever reading these 2 paragraphs a day that I'm writing. So I tell people all the time, if you want to be a writer, write every day, write 2 paragraphs a day, keep it in your notes. I could sit here and write about this, this hat, this USS Kitty Hawk CV-63 hat that I have sitting on my desk right now. And I'll write about that and I'll keep that muscle engaged. And so every day I write at least 2 paragraphs a day. If I'm in book writing season, then I've got a goal to write 1,500 words, right? And so I'm setting these writing goals that I'm doing with my kind of TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and things like that. I know that I'm going to post maybe 2 or 3 formidable pieces of content that I've created that I'm wanting people to share a week. But then I'm also just touching, a touch point in stories every single day. The people that follow me on all the places, they follow me because I'm, I talk about my family, I talk about my parents, and they're kind of learning from my life, as opposed to me being like, if you want to be less narcissistic, like whatever. Again, I'm more of a storyteller teacher as I am like a point by point teacher. And so I'm doing that, when I'm traveling, that's when I could get a tendency to be, playing days or whatever, you're on your phone, a lot more. And so yeah, I think by getting a team around me, it just changed everything, man. Every time my wife looks at Whitney, she's just like, you gave me my husband back. Like, how can we make sure that you never leave, And so,
Awesome. How did you find
yeah.
Whitney? That's one of the guys listening. They have such a hard time finding good workers.
Yes. Well, so I spent a lot of money to find Whitney. I tried assistants before, which is, again, some people can find success in it, but the virtual route or whatever. And for me, I literally went and found a business hiring coach. And I hired him, and he tested me like I thought I was being tested by the FBI. Like, it was mind blowing the amount of tests. And I was like, what is happening here? He tested me. Then he goes out and then he pulled, like, he had tested all of these other possibilities. Then he found the 3. Then I interviewed the 3. Then my wife interviewed the 3. And then because Whitney's also she's not just my assistant. She helped with my daughter's wedding last summer. Like, she's helping my wife just as much as she's,
family,
helping.
Well.
Yeah, kind of family. Yeah. And so
that's awesome.
She's in, man. She's in. And so it's funny because when I met Whitney, I think I was always looking for someone that I vibed with, and there was no vibe.
That's our biggest mistake. We go looking for people that are like us.
Yes.
People that can compliment us.
There was no vibe at all. And I just was like, man, I don't know, man. I'm just not feeling it. And Heather's like, oh, then I think this is the one. And I was like, I don't know. She doesn't laugh at my jokes. She's not just kind of stares at me when I want some sort of expression. And bro, little did I know that was going to be the secret myself. I can't even fathom life without this perfect hire. So again, maybe it's going to take a little bit more work than people are doing.
And more money. That's what I'm hearing from you is more work, a lot more work than you thought, and a lot more work than I thought, or the guys listening is put in more work.
Yes.
And guess what? You get a higher quality.
Man, oh my gosh. People want to steal her all the time. Everyone she ends up talking to, working on behalf of me, they're like, dude, she's where did you find her? I was like, in Wisconsin. She was working at her parents' coffee shop. I moved her to Nashville. So yeah, she's awesome.
That's very cool. Okay, so first thing in the morning is when you're fresh. Is that when you're writing?
Yep. So I write, especially if I'm writing my book, I am writing, probably 6 a.m. So I'll go from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. if I'm in book writing zone. When I'm writing, just to write my daily writing, sometimes that'll be in the afternoon. Sometimes it's in the morning. That's pretty short, those 2 paragraphs. So I can kind of fit that wherever. But if I'm writing for a project, I just launched a course called Human School. And so, it's 12 modules, tons of content. So when I was writing for all that was in the morning as well. I just feel like again, I'm the most fresh. I'm not exhausted. If I've gotten a good night's sleep, I can do that. So
the inspiration flows. Is Human School what you're working on right now, or are you working on a new project?
Yeah. So Human School right now. Yeah, Human School just came out 2 days ago. Actually, it comes out on Monday. This coming Monday. The cart closed on Thursday. We're talking on Friday right now, and so I spent the last 7 days launching this community called Human School, where again, I'm helping people rediscover the lost art of being human, which in turn is going to help them be on their screens less and all the things. And so, yeah, dude, I've never done anything like this before, and I'm trying to travel less. So, I'm trying to create some sort of sustainable income with it. Again, I've built a large Instagram following and a large YouTube following, but now I'm like, okay, how can I not get on airplanes and fly to DC every week?
That was my other question. Cause now, when you moved into the speaking gig, you're all over the place. In a month, how often are you traveling?
Last year, I think I did 90 events. I mean, do the math, bro. It's a lot. The year before that, I did a book tour. So I was doing an event a night. I'm on a bus and we're kind of grinding like that. And so, man, I'm 51. I'm kind of over it. And I've had some buddies that have been really successful with online communities and courses. And so they kind of helped me, get the idea behind this. And bro, I'm really excited about it. This is something that I'll relaunch again. I put a lot of effort and money into it. And I think it's going to help people, man. I think it's going to help families. I think it's going to help businessmen, businesswomen, leaders, entrepreneurs. I think it's going to help people. Again, I'm just into helping people rediscover the lost arts of being human. Again, noticing, wondering, savoring, solitude, boredom, all of these things that we've forgotten how to do, So yeah, man. So that's been, I'm taking a big breath because I just got done
Good.
launching that.
Good. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you.
Well, let's just wrap up with kind of this one last idea. You have this opportunity to share, one of the things you feel like is the most important messages for right now.
Yeah.
And you've shared already so many great things, but if you could just say, hey, people need to hear this, what would that be?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a phrase that in 2020 I started using that I heard from a friend of mine that I felt like kind of was a realignment for me when it came to living in this really polarized world that we live in right now. People tell me all the time that, Carlos, the world's more divided than it's ever been, right? That's what they say. And I'm like, actually, if you go to the library and pick up a history book, the world's not more divided than it's ever been. Like, I know that that's what we feel and that's what we see. The truth is, we just have more access to other people's opinions than we've ever had before. So what do we do with that? How can we walk side by side with people in this deeply polarized world? There's a phrase that my buddy Mike taught me. He said, Carlos, when people want me to make a stand on an issue, where do you stand on this issue? Like that, but all they're wanting me to do is become polarized in their life. So I say, I don't stand on issues, I walk with people. I don't stand on issues, I walk with people. And so for me, what I think implementing that in our lives is like, we can all be opinionated on tariffs and politics and all. You can have an opinion on an issue, but what I don't think we need to do is solidify our feet into the ground and not walk alongside people that have differing viewpoints and opinions than us. And so I think my example with Willis, my example with, some of the monks, like that's what it looks like to not stand on an issue, but walk with people. Willis has very strong beliefs in issues. I have very differing beliefs in issues, but guess what? We were farming together and we were walking together side by side. I think just the last thing I'd say to people is like, hey, listen, within your business, you're going to find that you're going to have to walk with people that you vehemently disagree with. Within your families, you're going to find that you have to walk with people, children that have made decisions your kids are going to grow up and become adults, and they're going to make up their own minds, and they're going to make up their minds differently than your mind has been made up in teaching them their entire life. So it's going to be your kids you're going to have to walk with that you vehemently disagree with. So I think that phrase, don't stand on issues, walk with people, has grown a little bit on me to include more than just like, hot topics. No, like this is going to be every single day. What does that look like?
Isn't that marriage? It's yes. Right with your wife, right? It's like, she's totally such a different human being. Yes. I can't pick a fight with her all the time.
Yeah.
I can't let the issue be this dividing thing. It's like, I got to learn to walk with her, hold her hand, and even disagree. And with your kids, with everybody. I love that, brother.
Yeah.
And I'm finding, I've been thinking about recently, because we have so many good friends, as we've traveled all over the world. Like, we've taken our kids to 60 some odd countries. You just connect. If you're open, you have an open mind, an open heart, you just connect with humans all over.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love it. I love having friends and close connections with people who think and live very, very different than I do. I deeply appreciate that.
Yes.
When I was younger, I didn't. I wanted to surround myself with people that were like me. Yeah. Now I'm finding like, I want to surround myself with people that are not like me.
Last phrase. Sorry, I do have one more
Good,
thing I want to say. It's pretty fresh as far as scaffolding that I'm building. I'm actually teaching this to HCA, which is a healthcare agency here in Nashville, in a few weeks, that I'm kind of building based on this kind of polarization world that we live in. And you just said it, like you use the word curious, like, just to be curious about other people that aren't like me, right? And I feel like that word, curiosity, literally can be the thing that leads to change. And Absolutely. So many people want change, but they don't want to be curious. And so the kind of framework that I've built is curiosity leads to empathy, right? Empathy leads to trust. Trust leads to relationships, and relationships will lead to change. But people want to skip the empathy, the trust, and relationship and go straight to the change. Well, guess what? It's going to take being curious, building trust, having empathy for the person that you disagree with. And then you have a relationship. And at that point, maybe somebody's mind will change. But guess what? It may be your mind that changes and not even theirs.
Yes. Well, I think it was Lincoln that said, if you would win a man to your cause, you must first convince him that you are his sincere friend.
That's good.
It makes me think, I've read a lot of World War II books. Well, just a lot of books. I've averaged a book a week for over 2.5 decades, right? And you just keep reading and you keep learning and you read across time and space. And there were so many times in history when people became so divided. And my guess is it wasn't the bulk of the people, but they were just too
Right.
quiet. They
Right.
kind of went along. They were too complacent. The extremes got so divided, and they would go up to people and they had to know, are you on this side or this side?
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah.
friend would suggest, and you're like, well, I'm not on either side. But they want to force you there. They want you put in
Yes.
a box.
Yeah.
And in the extreme situations, they would go up and be like, are you this or this? If you say this, I'll literally kill you. They would
Yeah.
just kill them right there,
Yeah.
or throw them in the gulags in Russia, or in concentration camps, or just murder you. And they want to force you that way. And I'm saying, let's with you. No. Let's be human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's be connected.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the issues. Let's be intelligent, wise enough to realize it's not always black and white.
Totally. It never is.
Right. Right.
Right.
There's always exceptions, and there's so
Yeah.
much to it. And like, hey, let's get way past the superficial surface level thinking. Let's really start to understand things and understand each other,
Totally.
and live together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
good.
brother, what a great message you have for the world, man. What great work
Thank
you're
you.
doing. Thank you for doing it. How can
Thank you, Greg.
people keep learning from you, connect with you, and find you?
Yeah. Instagram's where I hang out most of the time, at Loswit, LOSWHIT. Human School is something that maybe they'd be interested in. So if you go to my website, carloswhitaker.com, there's a wait list for when we hop into Human School next. And then, yeah, my books, I'd say, if you really want to get to know me, pick up a copy of Reconnected or How to Human. Those are my last two books. And all of the messages we've been talking about today will be unpacked even more in those. So
I love it. How much of a difference did those books make in your business, in like just connection with people and audience?
I was just on Mike Rowe's podcast, Dirty Jobs, like
Oh,
he's like top 15 podcasts in the world. They flew me to LA because he was like, I want to talk to this guy that didn't look at a phone screen for 7 weeks. Right. So it made a tremendous difference, right? Like these books. But here's the thing. That was book 5. Okay. So like I try to tell authors all the time, like, hey, you want to write your first book and become an instant bestseller? And like, no, listen, like that book, this book was my first book that I hit the USA Today bestsellers list. I still haven't hit the New York Times bestseller list. I'm 5 books in. I know I have friends of mine with half the amount of Instagram followers I have that are hitting. And I'm like, okay, guess what? I have to write a better book. It's like I have to keep getting better and keep getting better. And so yeah, like
yeah.
just keep going, man. Don't give up.
Oh, I love that. Brother, thank you. Thanks for being on here. And thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you, Greg.